Good afternoon, Brian with Grand Roofing. I apologize for not bringing content recently. Past 2 weeks I've been kind of busy, got a lot going on, so I'm making a really good effort to at least shoot a video. We're going to talk about pipe boots briefly in this video. How high should they shove under, or how far under should they be tucked versus how far, or where do you make the transition from over and under? Some basics on that and stuff. So I've got a couple pipes down here we're going to look and kind of compare to. If you could give it a thumbs up on the way in. As I said, I apologize. I've been busy. I've had a lot going on. I am a husband, a dad, running companies, so YouTube is kind of on the back burner when there's other more important things going on. So all the more reason to encourage you guys to give it a thumbs up. So let me know that it's actually helping you. So let's switch camera around and see what we can learn on this. By the way, today, because it's been a while, I'm trying to shoot this. Hopefully I get this out there today. Today is what, Wednesday the 28th, I think, maybe the 29th. Anyway, like I said, we're going to talk about some of the basic terminology of the shingles and the pipe boot and how far they should tuck under, the pros and the cons of where you got to make that judgment call. Sometimes you will need to make a judgment call. If it's kind of questionable, could you go under, could you go over? The benefits, the pros and the cons of making that decision on where you want to make the transition. Let's just look at this and what I would have done differently. I would have run this shingle under, and we're going to go over the reason why. You got water hitting the roof above, it's going to run down. The basics, you want it to go from the roof to the pipe boot, from the pipe boot down to the roof again on top of the shingles and run off, eventually making its way off the roof. You would be surprised at how many roofs I've been on where I see pipe boots simply just screwed to the roof, like simply right over the roof and caulked, screwed, whatever. The horrible mistakes made. I see a ton of them. Why I think this should have gone under one more. Water coming down on this, hitting this, you do want a little bit of a channel for the rainwater to run off, but let's look at the width of the actual pipe boot itself. So it comes over here. Note that size right there, okay? Look at that transition about right here. So it's not under very far laterally here. I'd say about this area. So knowing that, the lower the slope roof, the more lateral water movement you can have. Not necessarily will, but can have. If it's pretty steep like this, it's about a 10, 12, it's going to be encouraged by gravity just to pull it straight down off the roof. You're not going to have as much. But nevertheless, the amount of water above running down onto your pipe boot, you don't want splitting and running laterally, and then you mix in surface tension waking up under here. Also not a fan of nails right on the edge where the water flow comes down. So why I believe this is bad, water getting up under here, it is very potentially getting onto the roof deck. And I hope and I expect there's a good surface barrier, black paper of some sort, synthetic something, probably not synthetic, the roof's too old for that, where it would hit that and not get on your wood. But if it does at that point, it is now under your roof shingle layer and sandwiched in between your vapor barrier or black paper and your shingles running down. Eventually it could cause problems getting your nails, rusting them out, dripping in, and its issues. So there's two things we're going to look at when installing a pipe boot. How far under should you run it? Why? That's a good reason why. And if you do it wrong. So let's talk about very brief shingle basic. Got the exposure, the visual part that you see right here. The underlying size of the headlap. So this here, it's actually run under, not far enough, and you got the reveal lines not even covered here. You got a nail showing. The headlap of the shingle under this probably only goes up, I'd say about an inch, inch and a quarter, inch and a half. Various brands have different sizes. So imagine this shingle, the headlap underlying side has to go under. Doesn't matter what shingle material you're working with because of the keyways where shingle materials come together. It needs to be dry under that, no different than a starter row at your very bottom. That's essentially what the headlap does. But knowing it only crosses about that far up under, actually let me give you a visual on the gable. It's a good spot to show you a visual here. So here's the shingle exposure visual part. Imagine this being the shingle tucked under your flange, okay? So you got the visual part, your headlap side. Looking up here at the top of this right here, that is the top of that shingle. So from here, follow it up, the top of the shingle. You got the shingle here, which covers the keyways, the material, different pieces coming together. But if you look from here, my pinky area to my pointer, that's the only coverage you have between these three shingles. Why that's important, if your flange is up under here, imagine water on that flange wicking under this now because it's not under the side of the pipe boot far enough, and then it gets onto your roof deck. That's where it could cause problems, and in my opinion, that is a bigger trade-off, is a negative versus having it under farther. Well, if you go under farther, you're gonna have more of the pipe boot exposed on the bottom. So let's look at that. Sorry, these are starting to turn on. So this is exposed. To me, that is less of an issue than water getting under everything, provided you don't have any nails close to the outer edge and the bottom edge. Hopefully these pipes all don't turn on. They turned on a minute ago. Also, like I said earlier with this nail here, water coming down this, you see a dirty water trail. If you were to pop this up, you don't have much crossing under, and it only goes up about this high. So if you would have run, in my opinion, if this is a roof we did or will do, we would have run this under farther, or will run it under the flange one farther. By the way, this boot looks like it may have been replaced at a later time. It's probably not the original. That's probably why this is cut so wide. They took out an old one that was made for a bigger, steeper roof and then threw a replacement in due to the fact of the shingles being old. By the way, the shingles being old. A lot of people like to comment on the videos. Yes, I'm very aware of what shingle this is, that it's discontinued. But what a lot of you guys and the viewers that are quick to drop down to the comment section don't realize, I talk to homeowners. Sometimes somebody's brand new to a home and they can't get insurance. You can't turn it into insurance. Some people, just whatever the case. I don't always address it in the video, but yes, I'm very aware of the shingles. Just wanted to say that. So yeah, so this should have gone under. So at that point, the headlap now of this shingle is under the boot, which then would come up this high. And why, my opinion, that is a better trade-off to be under that much higher than not, because the amount of runoff hitting this boot could run laterally off of that flange under your shingle. Well, if this were tucked under, it's going to be on top of all this up here, not under it, running off onto your roof deck. So it's a bigger benefit in my eyes to be under one more than this, having a little bit of it show like that. Let's jump over here, it's quiet. Here's another good one. Now the trade-off, if you go too far, actually, this one is too far under. This shingle here should have crossed over. If you look at that right there, it's actually under the pipe boot. Well, several things on why this is bad. It's also, let's address being nailed off or screwed off first. Yes, I'm a big advocate of screwing these off or nailing them off, but there's a place for those screws. Screws are obviously going to hold better because they're threaded. Nails could pull up. A lot of people say never nail it, never screw it. Well, the problem is I've seen, due to sloppy cuts and flipping up like this, wind-driven rain blowing up under there causing leaks. So yeah, it should definitely be pinned down. Now the question becomes where. I am definitely not a fan of down the very bottom edge anywhere or the outer edge anywhere, because water surface tension waking up under will get onto those shanks, whether it's screw or a nail, eventually rusting it out, causing a problem dripping in. I've seen that a lot too. So whether it's just one up a little higher or two spaced out a little bit, pinning this down, you don't want them at the bottom or the outer edge. You also don't want to trap any water that may be in there due to condensation or anything because of a seal under there. So if you do under it, maybe just spot where you're going to put your fasteners. As I said earlier, this going under too far, water could easily wake up under this and get into a sloppy cut, causing a leak. So there is a positioning on when do you make that judgment call, how far under, when do you switch to on top. With a pipe like this, you can't manipulate the pipe height unless it's new construction or it's a new pipe you're putting through. You can't manipulate where your actual shingle is because you've got to start at a certain location down here. I guess you could crack lines to extend slightly or shrink a few, but the judgment call comes from how far under to switching to over. And to wrap up, this should have gone under. Those are the basics. Why? Let's see if I'm forgetting anything. Surface tension, water waking up under, nail screw placements, and how far to tuck under. I hope it gives you a little bit of an idea of why I make a judgment call on it being more important. The pros outweigh the cons on going under slightly further than the inverse of, say, that one over there. That's too far under. These here, those are pretty good. I don't mind a little bit showing. I definitely don't want the entire pipe flange bottom hidden, because then that tells me that lap is not near far enough or sufficient enough for the water splitting around this. We got to wrap up. We're going long. One other thing I want to point out here real quick, since I'm looking at it. Yeah, the roof is old. It is near its last leg. But we're going to talk very quick about the pitch and the slope right here. I've referenced dead pockets before in videos, but I've never really given a good example of what I actually mean. Dead pocket, where water has nowhere to flow. Call it what you want to call it. It's where water coming down a facet. Here we got 3 different facets coming down, converging, and this is absolutely flat. This is not good. A couple of remedies when the new roof is going on or when this is being built. Well, let's go into the remedies first. Ice and water at the very minimum. It doesn't even have that. This is older than ice and water is really even on the market. the water coming down has nowhere to go. In my region, it's cold. We get a lot of snow, ice, freezing, thawing, and this will easily block based on certain conditions with insulation inside, things like that. And it's actually got a leak going on now. Water's coming in. You can see where it's rotting the deck out and it's sinking down. Now it's probably running up into nail holes and whatever. It's just not good. So a low slope roof system in the dead pocket right here that can hold flat, stagnant, ice damming water. Or another solution, no bigger than this is, from right here, here to here, frame in a whatever the math determines, slightly lower slope to actually get the water to eject out off of this edge here and not have a 1 foot dead pocket right here. It would only change the valley angle on this side and right here slightly. You probably would never even see it, but it would get it out. The other thing is a little pocket of ice and water, I'm sorry, not ice and water, low slope roof system, roll roofing, or rubber, something of that nature. Also, would have definitely put flashing behind the fascia board here. I see a lot of leaks caused because there's no flashing, sloppy cuts, water soaks up into the wood here, whatever. This is actually cracking and breaking. All right, we're at 11 minutes. It's a good point to wrap up here. As I said earlier, I really apologize. I want to keep the content coming, but I've got other priorities in life, and I do want to keep sharing what I know out here. If you could, really does mean a lot. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. As I said, today's September, Wednesday, 28th, 29th maybe, whatever. So I'm hoping to get this uploaded for you guys as a good effort of trying to bring some content to you because I've been a little busy lately. Until next time, be safe, and we'll see you on the next video.